Have you ever noticed that sometimes the harder you try to achieve something, the further away it seems? Today, we're going to pick apart something fascinating, the law of reversed effort, also known as the backwards law. This principle suggests that the more intensely we pursue something, the less likely we are to succeed. It sounds counterintuitive, but think about it. When you desperately try to be happy, happiness escapes you, like trying to catch smoke. We've all been there, almost like when you obsess over getting a good night's sleep. You lie awake for hours. We'll also try to understand how this paradoxical law works and how letting go of the intense pursuit of our desires can actually help us achieve them. By the end, we hope to give you a fresh perspective on the ideas of effort and success. And most importantly, practical tips on how you can use this wisdom in your daily life to finally flow with the currents of life instead of getting tossed about. But first, what is the backwards law? The backwards law, also known as the law of reversed effort, is centered around one central truth. The harder we try to achieve something, the less likely we are to succeed. This paradox works in the same way as the law of attraction. If you're interested, check out our video on the law of attraction, where we go into more detail. Basically, when we are in intense pursuit of a goal, we often reinforce the feeling of lacking it. For instance, when we desperately want to be rich, we tend to focus on our current financial situation, making us feel poorer regardless of how much money we actually have. As well, when we intensely seek love, we become acutely aware of our loneliness, and inevitably it makes it even harder to find a meaningful connection. That sense of desperation is like a signal to the universal forces of life, and we end up only attracting the same. And so, when our thoughts and vibrations are centered on what we don't have, we inadvertently draw more of that negativity and scarcity into our experience. Alan Watts said it best, "When you try to stay on the surface of the water, you sink. But when you try to sink, you float. When you hold your breath, you lose it." It's the cruel irony of this beautiful life. And so you might then wonder, how exactly do you live the backwards law? The origins of the backwards law are long and complex, and can be traced back to ancient philosophies such as Taoism and Zen Buddhism. These teachings speak about the power of wu-wei, or effortless action, where one aligns with the natural flow of life rather than forcing things to happen. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu advises, "By letting go, it all gets done. The world is won by those who let it go." In practice, applying this law means shifting from a mindset of forceful action to one of calm acceptance and presence. For instance, consider someone preparing for a public speech. If they obsess over every word and worry excessively about their performance, their anxiety might ruin their delivery. However, if they relax, trust in their preparation, and focus on connecting with the audience, they will inevitably succeed, even if they stumbled. You can see the same in sports. Athletes often perform best when they're in the zone, which is a state of where they're fully present and not overthinking their actions. Artists, actors, and almost anyone absorbed in a craft that they're passionate about speak of this. By letting go of intense effort and trusting their training, they achieve peak performance. And it's in these common real-life moments that show us that when we ease up on the pressure we place on ourselves, we open the door to greater success. And yet, there are so many who have misunderstood the essence of this law. So, we must ask ourselves, what are the misconceptions and challenges with the backwards law? Insecurity is the result of trying to be secure. And while Alan Watts was one of the most important modern pioneers in the quest for truth, his philosophy around the law of reversed effort, which he often called the backwards law, was not new. Zen Buddhism and many other ancient practices have long been speaking about this. But a common misconception about the backwards law is that embracing it means you have to adopt a passive attitude or lack ambition in life. People often assume that letting go of intense effort means doing nothing and abandoning goals. However, this is far from the truth. The backwards law is not about giving up on your dreams. It's about balancing effort and surrender and understanding that relentless pursuit can sometimes limit your progress. It's about recognizing that every successful person has moments in their rise where their success had nothing to do with their effort. It came from moments of fate and serendipity. It came from the truth behind the backwards law. Intense pursuit of anything almost always leads to stress and anxiety, and ultimately, the dreaded burnout, which is all counterproductive. For instance, someone desperately trying to write a book might find themselves facing writer's block from the pressure they place on themselves. But when they step back and allow their ideas to flow naturally, they overcome this block and return to writing effectively. This balance of effort and surrender is the key to achieving success in any area of your life. It's balancing the blinding fixation we have on a specific result with the state of mind where you flow and can be present to see new opportunities. It's not about becoming passive or inactive. It's about being in tune with the natural rhythms of life and recognizing that sometimes stepping back can give you a greater clarity and thus better results. The backwards law presents a fascinating paradox. To gain control, you must first surrender it. This may seem like a bold contradiction, but it lies at the heart of finding balance and achieving true success in whatever form success means for you. The essence of the paradox is that by letting go of the need to control every aspect of our lives, we open ourselves up to new possibilities and opportunities that we might have otherwise overlooked. Imagine you're navigating a river in a canoe. If you constantly paddle against the current, trying to control your path, you exhaust yourself and make little to no progress. However, if you surrender to the flow of the river, you move effortlessly and allow the current to guide you. And remember, this surrender doesn't mean passivity or lack of ambition. Instead, it's about adopting a flexible mindset where you're willing to adapt and embrace change. The strength of a towering tree lies not only in its roots, but in the flexibility of its branches, able to move and bend with the rising wind. In relationships, this paradox is also seen. Constantly seeking validation or forcing a connection will often push people away. However, when you're confident, relaxed, and trust in the natural progression of the relationship, you tend to attract genuine and lasting connections. Ultimately, the paradox of control within the surrender teaches us that true power comes from a harmonious balance between effort and surrender. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means allowing the universe to work its magic, leading us to outcomes better than we could have ever planned. At the end of the day, though, it's important to remember, when you stop trying so hard, things will work out better than you could ever dream. See you soon, curious soul.